Hi, y'all. How we doing? This is your host, Rob Napoli. If you're a podcast junkie like me and you're looking for a new podcast to add to your feed, you might want to check out the Success Fundamentals podcast with my guys, Brian Goldstack and Chris Sykes, where they drop weekly episodes that cover all things success and growth. You can find the Success Fundamentals podcast on whatever platforms you enjoy listening to this podcast, The Bear Necessities. Hey y'all, how we doing? Shout out once again to Bear Nation for tuning in to another episode of the Bear Necessities podcast. I am your host, Rob Napoli. The Bear Necessities is a podcast where we sit down with entrepreneurs, ecosystem partners, and innovation folks to talk about what it takes and means to launch, create, and scale business across the world. We talk about the journey and the challenges of being entrepreneur-minded and how that translates into your journey, giving you the tools and knowledge to overcome challenges that you may be facing in your life's journey. The Bear Necessities is part of the Rise Up Media family, and we thank you for tuning in. Now, let's get into the show. Hey, y'all, how we doing? Rob Napoli here for another episode of the Bear Necessities podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, and you can see it, we got the green in the background. If you're listening, we're actually outside at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, Crown Heights, my favorite little coffee shop called Little Zelda. So if there's some background noise, that's what it is. But we're just decided to do on location. It's hot today in New York City. It's 95 and sunny, so I'm rocking a cutoff for if you see the clip or you see it on YouTube. Otherwise, if you're listening in, just know that we're out here on location. And the reason why we're out here today is if you listen to the last episode, I talked about where the podcast is going. I wanted to share more things about entrepreneurship other than just founder stories and getting into deeper questions. And for those that probably not there, shameless plug, I wrote a book called The Social Soul, and it's all about leveraging your personal and professional brand. And one of the biggest questions I always get asked is how to do it. And I don't have time. Where do I start? Especially as it relates to video. So I was thinking, video content, who better than to bring back, you probably saw this episode earlier this season, my boy, TK, Taylor King from TK Creative. He is a director and motion designer, but in the past has done a lot of video production work, used to be a TikTok creator for a number of brands, and he is a Gen Z entrepreneur. Doing this right now. And so I thought it'd be great to have you back on to talk about it. How you doing, Taylor?
What's going on, people? I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be back and glad that we got to finally make coffee happen here. It's been a while since we did our normal coffee chats.
Absolutely.
So I guess the first part is, you're a director and motion designer. So video is a big piece of what you do. So let's start with this question. Why, and we kind of know, we see it, we know video is powerful. But why is video so powerful, especially as it relates to brands?
Yeah, well, so, it's funny. I just added something to my notes in my pitches to clients because I saw something yesterday that I had not seen. I've been freelancing for and kind of, running my own show for I think 4 years now. And I've gotten the opportunity to hire some amazing people, to work under some amazing people. And I've never heard this before. And it was a pitch for a video agency. And they had a stat. And I don't know where the stat is from. I should probably look it up. But it says that the reason video is so powerful is because our brains compute images 60,000 times faster. It does 60 times faster than words, which is kind of a big deal. I should know that. That's my whole career, right? So now it's 60x faster than words. And so that's really the main reason is because why should you hire someone or get content? It's because seeing it is much faster than reading words. And so, yeah, at the core, that's really the main reason.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, as we saw millennials and more so the Gen Z generation with TikTok and Instagram Reels, is instead of reading a blog post that's going to take you 10 minutes, it depends on your reading level, you can watch a 30-second clip and get the same information, right?
Yeah, and for a brand that has a complicated product, especially a lot of stuff from the crypto space too, that is the main reason, is you can take something that's really complex and distill it. You can use some words too, but mostly with visuals into a very, very short kind of explain.
Yeah. And what's also great about creating video content is that you can turn it into long form written content, you can just transcribe it and cut it up, and it's a lot more versatile, right? But that's interesting. So we process it 60 times faster, meaning we get to the damn point faster, which is for a brand or for especially a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast. If you're trying to grow your credibility in your business, wouldn't you want to be creating content that is processed 60 times faster? Like,
Yeah.
pretty simple, right? So, you do some really cool stuff like with video, but how do you go about, and you shoot everything on an iPhone. I mean, I know you have like your cameras and stuff, like some of the stuff, but like, I know you and I talk a lot about it. I think we talked about it in your episode about the power of an iPhone.
Yeah.
So you probably see things more than most, but how do you think about capturing things with your iPhone just when you're out and about? Like, tell me a little about like your thought process with it as a walking around the streets of New York.
Yeah. I think for anyone who wants to kind of grow a brand, I think we're in kind of a time now where there's so many people that have visibility on social. Like if you have an Instagram account, people expect to be able to go to the Instagram, go to that account and say, oh, I know who this person is, or I know what they do, or I know what they stand for. And so I think it's almost a necessity with an iPhone shooting kind of your life or things about your job, if you want to build a brand, because people are looking to understand, and that's really the first touch point in like today's society is like, oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, you're blah, blah, blah. Oh, do you have an Instagram account or do you have a website or whatever? So, I think the reason is just because that's what people look for information. And I think the other, the way I do it is, I guess, kind of just finding the elements of kind of what your passion is, what your job is, right? So I'm a motion designer. So I do a lot of, I try and do a lot of clever things with a computer. So I'm sitting at my computer kind of thinking of ideas, and I start out in the world and then I kind of bring it and expand upon it. So I try and like shoot process stuff for me, like things about the process, like behind the scenes stuff. I think for someone who's a business owner, it's, hey, here are my employees. Here's the stages of my job. I think it's almost everything that, like if you've worked in a job for a couple of years, everything that you don't find interesting is typically the things that people on the internet find interesting.
Exactly. So I don't want to think about the power of video right now. We know video is consumed better, but really we're talking about the power of social, right? And so when we think about like how you just said, like walking around and like taking these things, sometimes it's simple as, when you're out and you see something cool traveling and you take a picture, instead of taking a picture, take a 5-second video clip, because you can string those together and there's tons of tutorials on how to create like a reel, right?
Yeah.
So like even just doing that, but we forget how powerful our phones are. I think people think for us to have great video content or social, you have to have like the right tools and where it's like, y'all don't even realize that y'all have iPhones in your pocket or a smartphone in your pocket that is way more powerful and just as effective. And I think so many people forget about that. And I remember the reason why I bring TK into this is that earlier when we were going through some personal brand, I was talking about elevating my personal brand and like getting a camera or a GoPro. And he's like, bro, you have an iPhone.
Yep.
And I was like kind of that moment of like, shit, I do have an iPhone. Let me start putting it to good use. And my content production increased when I got that. So a lot of entrepreneurs, you're a motion designer, you shoot video for a living, you do these things, and video is a big part of your job, so it's more instinctive. But put yourself in a shoes, think an entrepreneur who doesn't think of video the same way you do, but it's like they ask you, like, how do I create good and social video content? What should my posting schedule be like? What kind of advice would you give them for just beginning to kind of put yourself out there on social using video for your brand?
Yeah. It's a tricky one. I think it changes a little bit by the person, but I think in general, TikTok and Instagram are the kings right now. I think if you're, super deep into business networking, I think LinkedIn is great as well. But I think for video, it's those two mainly.
Yeah.
And, I think it's using the app interface a lot. I think TikTok has an incredible, and so does Reels, has an incredible app interface that makes it easy to record like 15 seconds, 30 seconds. And and to, the user interface leads you to do it correctly, which is you record or you pick a sound and then record, and then you throw in a caption and you post it. And what's great about these platforms now is that, yeah, you can throw in some hashtags in there. If you make coffee, throw in, hashtag coffee, hashtag barista. But I think in general, these videos, these algorithms are built to reach the users you want. So I think it's just picking some things in your life or in your business that you think people might find interesting.
Yeah.
Stages of your life. I think the most important thing for me is coming to it from a place of ultimate humbleness of just, hey, here's my thing. Because there's a lot of people on social media, it's so cluttered with, hey, look how awesome this is. These words, awesome, crazy. Everyone is so, overused. So I think just coming to from a place hey, here's this cool thing. If you're into this, this is my thing. If you're a beekeeper, hey, here's some beacons, you have to change this twice a day. Silly things like that actually are kind of who you are and what you're up to. Use the app, hit record, and you find a sound you like, cool. Get on the apps, get a little familiar with the app user interface, and just find your community is the last thing I'll say.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to kind of break that down really simply, it's one, shoot on the app because it's going to help you just utilize it, and you don't need to overcomplicate it. 15, 30 seconds, pick a sound and a caption.
Yeah.
And, let's translate that to a business owner. Well, if your business is content creator or business owner of a B2C company, right? Maybe it's the behind the scenes stuff. Maybe it's, showing off how to use those products in real life, like sneaker brand, out, wearing out in the town, in a club, on the streets, in a workout class. It's so easy to do. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to make it salesy.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been learning a lot from some really talented designers around me recently, and just trying to absorb because there's a lot that I can learn still. And there was probably a designer who's been 15 years in the game, and he said the hardest thing is that first stroke.
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of people, it's I'm not really TikTok or I'm not really Instagram. I don't really think there's anything interesting enough for me to be on there. Yada yada yada. It's just make the first stroke. Just make the video. It's a very humbling experience. I think it takes everyone down a peg because it's what the heck am I doing? I'm uncomfortable. But that moment is really the beginning. I think you can speak for it. Is really the beginning of that next chapter for you of just being able to communicate with people in a different way. Just make the first stroke. You got this.
Well, and also too, if you don't want to use Instagram or TikTok, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't shoot on there. I sometimes love the fact that I can shoot on Instagram or TikTok and put a sound and bring the sound really low. So it's just a little bit of a background soundtrack over and I put it on Instagram or I put it on LinkedIn. I put it on Facebook, right? Maybe Instagram and TikTok's not where you grow, but that's where you create the content and then you export it to other platforms. Because what we notice is that content shot on mobile, and that is in the 9:16 frame, is going to play well on all platforms better than a square, especially branded content. If it has a lot of LinkedIn, for example, changed their algorithm to pick up graphic overlays.
Okay.
And so I think with a lot of this video content, as you're starting off and whether it's your personal brand or for your business, once a week, short and simple, don't overcomplicate it. And it's usually the things that you probably, as Taylor said, the things that you don't find as interesting is probably the stuff that's going to resonate with your user base more than anything.
I've got some stats for you.
Yeah.
So just from an advertising angle, 95% of Facebook is consumed on mobile. 98% of Instagram is consumed on mobile. So when you think about where your video is going to appear, it's going to appear on a phone in this space. So if your video is a horizontal video, it's going to take up just a piece of this, right? Sorry, I just thought it's going to do notifications. But it's going to take up a very small piece, right? And what's funny is from an advertising, say you're a business owner, you want to run ads, you run a shop or something. It's the same price for the small, horizontal video or the large. Yeah. So it's literally, you're just getting more real estate. And so it's just making content that intentionally takes up more real estate on social.
So for all my entrepreneurs out there listening that have asked me this question, if 95+% of your content on the major platforms, especially the B2C and B2B space that you're playing, because LinkedIn, I'm not sure of the stats. I know it used to be more desktop than mobile, but it's starting to trend. If your audiences are consuming on their mobile device make your content mobile optimized. It's easy to do because you can film on your phone. You don't need a big camera. You don't need anything crazy. Go vertically because you get the full real estate. Why aren't you doing it? Why are we still trying to push ebooks and white papers and blogs when no one's reading them? You just gave us numbers on Facebook and Instagram, 95+% on your mobile device.
Isn't that crazy?
And we still are pushing out old school content.
And this is the last thing I'll say. If you are getting video content made, something that I get asked a lot, something that gets asked of everybody making videos, because business owners are it's not something that they should be educated in. If you're trying to make content, and it's going to go on social, don't shoot it horizontal. Don't get your camera guy to shoot it horizontal and then ask him to switch it to vertical. Just shoot everything vertical, because that's where it's going to go. It's where it's going to be used, unless it's like a website header. But beyond that, just shoot it vertical, think vertical. It's what's getting played these days.
Yeah. I mean, the only time you shoot horizontal is if you have very specific asks. And usually if you have very specific asks like that, you're probably getting a videographer who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, for example, like people who come to Taylor are brands who's like, okay, we've started these things. We need to take them to the next level. I know a lot of people out there listening. It's like, we can't afford a video person or a content person, but we don't know how to do it ourselves. And that's why we really wanted to just sit here and say, it's easy to get started. And then you just build upon there and don't overcomplicate it. Like, that's what it's all about. So, Taylor, appreciate the time. The one thing I do want to give a quick shout out. I know we have a lot of listeners around the world, but we also have quite a following in New York. And there's this really cool thing that you're doing, and that part of it, this creator meetup. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, maybe they don't see themselves as creators, but could benefit through this creator community. So you want to kind of give I'm going to give you some real estate here to talk about Creator NYC. For entrepreneurs in New York City, you should check it out. They meet on Saturdays. So, why don't you say that?
Yeah, so it's called Creators NYC. It's run by a friend of mine, Chich. And he started this really only about 6 months ago. And so every Saturday and a couple times during the week now, there's a bunch of events. It's a bunch of photographers, entrepreneurs, and video people. And we all show up and just kind of hang out. And it's a space for maybe some creation if you want to do that. But it's also a space just to chat, meet other people who are in, especially if you want to start freelancing or you want to start your own business. There's a bunch of people like myself and others that kind of run their own businesses and have a lot of insight there. And it's a ton of fun. So at Creators NYC.
On Instagram, right?
Yep, on Instagram.
So check it out. And the reason why I bring that up is that if you are in NYC and you're an entrepreneur, and you want to start creating, but you know where to start, like, this is a great community to learn. Like, they're super open. Like, you don't have to be a quote unquote creator, because in their eyes, everybody is a creator. If you're using social, you're a creator. I know one of the guests I would like to get on is she used to talk about Creator NYC and what's been being built there on the pod. So we'll hopefully have an episode later with that. But I wanted to kind of throw that out there because there are so many great communities for entrepreneurs to connect with actual creators and learn from. So this doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be this scary thing. Like, find these little communities and leverage them because you can learn a lot. So check them out on Instagram. TK, how do my followers find you? Where should they checking you out?
Most on Instagram at TK3. That's TKTHREE.
Cool. And I know you got a new website that just launched. So at least gotta throw that website link in there. I'll have it in the show notes.
If you want to see some of my work, it's www.createdbytk.com.
Yeah, awesome, my guy. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing some knowledge about social and video. Hope you find this interesting. Make sure you give us a 5-star review on podcast. It helps big time with all this stuff that we are doing. It's got a lovely nice scene. You gotta love it. Check us out. Let us know what you want to hear more about. So thank y'all. Until next episode, stay well and rise up. Bear Nation, once again, thank you for tuning in and listening to the Bear Necessities podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review. It really does help and means a lot to us, the show. And I want to thank our friends over at Fin. Fin is a social good platform that creates employee engagement and builds culture. It's our mission to support and give back to the communities that we serve around the world. And we do this by giving every guest on our show a $10 donation to the cause of their choosing using the Fin platform. Until next time, thank y'all, stay well, and rise up. If you hadn't already heard about it, Now, you don't already know, my new book, The Social Soul, How to Master Your Personal and Professional Brand with Intentionality and Authenticity, is out now. You can find it on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Go check it out, purchase a copy, let me know what you think, leave me a review. I appreciate y'all for the support. Can't wait to hear from you what stood out the most.